Shalom. First and foremost, before I get started with my lesson, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Salutations and blessings to the Akim that do this work in truth and in sincerity. Lord willing, this video will be edifying and to the point, and I'm going to entitle this lesson, what leavens you? Purge. And this is a post-Passover lesson. We're now in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And, elders and brothers have basically been going into purging the old man. And, basically trying to make yourself acceptable for the marriage. Examining yourself through the spirit and getting rid of those last few lumps, whatever it may be, through the spirit to be acceptable. Basically that gold that's been tried in the fire. So I'm gonna get this real quick. This is 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 4, and it says, "No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier." So basically putting off the old man, whatever that may be or look like. Basically being a better brother. Putting more time and effort into the truth. More than the world. The flesh. Pleasing the Lord. So I'm gonna get that in the NLT. And it says, soldiers don't get tied up in the affairs of civilian life, for then they cannot please the officer who enlisted him. And the Lord have called us to this truth. He has called us to this truth, to this ministry, to push this word, to teach the word, in hopes, to be saved. So we can't worry about, the things of the world or the things that weigh us down. And something that the brothers, one of the brothers had said was, don't worry about the things in the world. Of course, handle your business and be in balance. But, the things that are meant to happen are going to happen, and what's going to happen anyway, because it was written before time to happen that way. So the only thing that we can do is have faith and continue to, push forward and believe in the process. And what is that? That movie Training Day. With Denzel Washington. He played as what's his name? Alonzo, I think it is. And he was basically warning that dude Jake. In the beginning of the movie, he was like, unlearn all that BS that they teach you at the academy. Because that shit'll get you killed. It'll get you killed out here. And all the things that are in the world that we once knew or had a way of thinking, that shit is old, and that type of thinking or worrying about those things will get you killed. It will get you killed out here. So, focus on things, as the scriptures say, that are above and not on the things that are on earth. For these things, where scriptures say, where moth and rust does corrupt, all right, but focus on things above. Store your treasures on things above, all right? So, yeah, let me get this real quick. This is 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. It says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. All right, so it's a spiritual battle. All right, it's a spiritual battle to stay focused. All right, and Satan is always trying to draw your attention to something else, draw your attention away from the truth. All right, and we just gotta stay spiritually focused, and the way that we do that is by basically, all right, feeding our spirit, as the scriptures say. All right, which we're gonna get. All right, so it's a battle. All right, uh, you know, everything is a distraction on this side. All right, in the matrix. All right, the matrix is always trying to pull your attention this way and that way, and it's like the wind. All right, and it's trying to distract you, throw you off your game, or whatever the case may be. All right, because it's a spiritual warfare. All right, it's a spiritual warfare out here to throw you off of your spiritual path. All right, and I can get that real quick. All right, this is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. And it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness, of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Again, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. All right. And all of these things around here are to get you off of your spiritual pivot. All right. And to distract you. All right. So stay focused. All right. Stay focused. These elites, all right, you best believe that they're praying to their deities. All right. And trying to throw off the elect. All right. To try to make you, all right, not be spiritual. All right. To make you act carnally. All right. To be carnal. All right. Take your attention away from moving in the spirit. All right. And that's why we got to continue to pray, fast. All right. And ask the Lord for the strength, for our strength in these days. All right. So let me get this real quick. This is Galatians chapter 5, verse 16. And it says, this I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. All right. For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to another, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. All right. So it's a spiritual tug of war, man. All right. Between, all right, your flesh, all right, and your spirit. All right. That's what it is. A spiritual tug of war to get your attention, all right, drawn to your flesh. All right. To move fleshly. All right. So Satan will have a reason, all right, to try to devour you, as the scriptures say, man. All right. So that's why we always got to rely and meditate on the scriptures. Scriptures say, meditate on these things day and night, for you shall have great success. All right. These demons are definitely active. All right. To try to throw you off, all right, your spiritual pivot. All right. And try to make you react through the flesh. All right. But we got to remain, spiritually grounded, all right, to the things that we were taught, all right? Let's get this real quick. This is Matthew 26 and 41. It says, watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak, all right? And the way that you feed and you increase your spirit is by meditating on the scriptures, reading the scriptures. All right. Anytime that you're going through something, all right, you whip out the spirit. You whip out the spirit. All right. You whip out the scriptures. All right. And go to whatever it is that you may be dealing with, man. All right. The scriptures say these things were written for our learning. All right. They were written beforehand for our learning. All right. Written by the prophets. All right. And if we are those same prophets as old and before, then we're doing nothing but basically giving ourselves advice in these modern times on how to get through the things that we once got through before. So, Abaratazah, that, we would stand, all right, and that we are those men. All right. Let's get this real quick. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 14 and 14. It says, let go from thee mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, put off now the weak nature, set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee to flee from these times. For yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done thereafter. Shalakia. For yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter. All right. So whatever it is that you're going through now, all right, always remember that it can always get worse, and that eventually it will get worse. All right. But through it being worse, and you have faith because you have the scriptures. All right. The scriptures is going to strengthen you. All right. And, anytime I go through something, man, I be like, man, the Lord's bringing me through, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. But I always meditate and say to myself, man, it's going to get a lot more worse than this. So I can't fade. All right. My faith can't fade just on what's going on right now. All right. If I can't handle this, I can't handle what the Lord has to come later on. All right. Which is going to come in the form of Jacob's trouble. All right. The RFID chip. All right. Et cetera, et cetera. All right. So, keeping yourself in check, keeping those things in mind, all right, keeps you stronger. All right. Because it puts you in the mindset of, I'm not folding to this. You know what I mean? I'm not folding to this. This is just the beginning. All right. So they'll keep you level-headed and strong through the spirit. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. All right. And until the next time, Lord willing, I say shalom.